most recent catastrophe to remember to eat. I taught myself how to manage my school calendar, wash the laundry, and live a quiet life. School presented a different kind of difficulty. When teachers found out that I was the youngest in the troubled family, they would occasionally give me that pathetic look, expecting me to be just another troublesome kid. However, they appeared somewhat let down when I proved to be a quiet, decent student, as though I wasn't living up to the family's reputation. By submitting assignments on time, never raising my hand until asked, and avoiding participation in groups or teams that may call for parental engagement, I also made myself invisible there. Rebecca and Jennifer were my saviors by the time I was 13. The one elective in middle school where I felt free to express myself without fear of criticism was painting class, where I first met them. We connected over that implicit understanding, even though their homes weren't flawless either. In addition to Becca's mother battling illness, Jen's parents were going through a difficult divorce. We didn't need to tell each other why we felt unheard or unnoticed. We would spend hours at one another's houses to avoid the drama in our own families. In an attempt to outdo her mom's house, we would raid Jen's pantry for the snacks her dad kept sending. On Becca's good days, we would assist her mother in the garden, feigning to make miraculous medicinal concoctions with the herbs. We would hide in the basement of my house, where the commotion upstairs seemed far away and muffled. There were new challenges in high school. The problems my siblings were having appeared to get worse every year. Austin attempted suicide twice and was admitted to the hospital. Nathan participated in 3 separate treatment programs. Mason's condition deteriorated to the point where he required placement in a long-term care facility. After graduating from college and returning home, Diana's room next to mine turned into a dark, anxious place. My relationship with my parents stayed distant throughout it all, but my relationship with Jen and Becca strengthened. We had our ups and downs, just like any other adolescent, but we remained close. We grew skilled at making up our own family customs, such as marathons of movies on the weekends, covert birthday parties, and late-night cookie baking sessions when one of us was having trouble falling asleep. It was not even a question when it came time to apply to colleges. We would go together, of course. We decided on a public university that provided courses for every interest we had. To be honest, though, it had nothing to do with academics or school. Our modest family and the only steady relationships we had ever known had to be preserved. For the first time, college felt like a breath of new air. Being 3 states away from home made the incessant hum of family crises seem like a faraway background noise. I poured myself into computer science lessons and found a universe where problems had obvious answers and logic and order were in control. We continued to live together in our apartment while Jen pursued marketing and Becca decided to pursue pre-law. We were inseparable for years. We strategically chose to go to a new area after college in order to look for work in a tech center that would provide prospects for all of us. We established our lives in a modest apartment building, some distance away from the mayhem we had previously experienced. We were now able to concentrate on ourselves rather than balancing the burdens of our families, which had been a burden for years. It was freeing. My software engineering career took off. At a promising business, I began as a junior developer and worked my way up through weekend and late-night tasks. Every promotion felt like confirmation that my prospects of succeeding had not been ruined by being the odd one out, the unseen one. In just 5 years, I rose to the position of senior software engineer, managing my own group and making important choices. I stopped communicating with my parents shortly after, and they hardly noticed. I didn't imagine they would suddenly become interested in my life now because, to be honest, we hadn't talked much even when I was living at home. My mother would occasionally text, generally with a casual message like, "How's work?" or "What's going on?" But we didn't actually discuss anything. It's better that way. At least that's what I believed. I was no longer in need of their attention. Becca and Jen were sufficient. Each of us had a prosperous career. Jen was doing well in marketing, Becca had recently become a partner at her law company, and I had advanced in the software industry. We each had our own goals and lifestyles, and for once, I didn't feel like the kid left behind. I was rather proud to have started a small family of my own. When my mother called last year, that began to alter. Thanksgiving was a few days away. I knew something was awry when her name appeared on my screen because I hadn't spoken to her on the phone in over a year. Questions were always raised by phone calls. She last got in touch with me to let me know about Mason's most recent hospital stay. She immediately got to work asking me what time I was leaving for Thanksgiving at home. I was, to put it mildly, perplexed. First of all, I was unaware that they were even celebrating Thanksgiving because we rarely honored holidays. I can count on one hand how many times we celebrated Thanksgiving and Christmas in a traditional manner as children. When we did attempt, it was generally when someone was in difficulty, Like the year Austin lost it over the turkey or when Nathan got drunk and got into a fight with Dad. In short, our family did not celebrate holidays. They were just another day of handling emergencies and preserving the fragile equilibrium that prevented our home from collapsing. 3 years had passed since the last family get-together, which had ended with 2 ambulance calls and a police visit. We then decided in silence to cease acting like we could undertake everyday family activities. It was so strange to hear her ask such a question, considering our long-standing tradition. I told her I wouldn't be attending. For months, Jen, Becca, and I had been organizing a ski vacation. With 3 days' notice, I couldn't possibly cancel it. We had previously scheduled time off from work, purchased new ski equipment, and paid for the cabin rental. Aside from that, I couldn't afford a last-minute flight ticket during holiday prices because I lived 2 states away. I attempted to explain, but my mother didn't get it. She pretended that I was being deliberately challenging and guilt-tripped me by saying that she would be by herself because Dad was spending Thanksgiving with Mason at the institution where he is enrolled. Apparently, she would be alone most of the day while Dad was away. She depicted herself sitting by herself at a table that was deserted, while everyone else had somewhere to go. See, I got it. I understood why she wanted company, but she gave me 3 days' notice. Nevertheless, she began to imply that I didn't care about the family when she got upset when I informed her again that I couldn't make it. She said I was self-centered, had forgotten my origins, and had abandoned them, as I always had. I was aware of the irony of that final charge. After she hung up, I sat there for a while feeling a weird mixture of bitterness and remorse. Where had they been for me all those years, even though I felt guilty for abandoning her? When did I get my college degree? When did I get promoted for the first time? When did I purchase my first vehicle? Suddenly, I was the bad guy for not dropping everything to go home after months of not hearing from them. I combed over my previous communications, searching for anything I might have missed, any indication that they were interested in getting back in touch, any effort to establish a rapport. However, nothing was present. Thanksgiving is not mentioned. You didn't say you wanted to come see me. They didn't care about me until they needed me for something. What confused me more than anything was that it was just a last-minute guilt trip. Later that evening, I tried to be tactful when I contacted her. We had another vacation planned, which we had done for years, so I told her I wouldn't be able to make it for Christmas either. I mentioned that I would love to catch up once the year ended, and that perhaps we could arrange something beforehand the next time. She didn't answer. Not surprisingly. However, after a few days, the weird feeling that had infiltrated my stomach persisted. In hindsight, I think that phone conversation was only the beginning of something much bigger, something I didn't anticipate. At that time, however, I had no idea how far this issue would go. First update. I thought things would settle down after that odd Thanksgiving talk. However, a week or so later, my father texted me. I never get texts from my dad. When his name appeared on my phone, I thought it must be something serious because he tends to talk too much. However, what I read when I opened the message was unbelievable. I'm stopping your college payments if you don't come home for Christmas. I genuinely burst out laughing. 3 years prior, I had received my degree. There was nothing left to stop with the college payments. In an attempt to be lighthearted, I first believed that he could have confused me with Diana or another of my siblings. I assumed that would be the last word on it. Maybe check your bank account. 3 years without payments have passed, I said. Nevertheless, my phone buzzed once more a few hours later. The message was longer this time around. Yes, my father was really angry. He continued by accusing me of being self-centered, of failing to appreciate the sacrifices my parents had made for me and my brothers, and of leaving the family. At this point, I just gazed in awe at my phone. I had never once made a request of them. To be honest, I was unaware that they believed they were covering my education expenses. All of my costs, including tuition, had been covered by Grandma. She wanted my parents out of that part of my life, away from any influence they might try to have, and to be honest, I was delighted she had. My father was trying to put me through this whole guilt trip, and it seemed completely unexpected. I inhaled deeply before answering. I'm sorry you feel that way, but Grandma paid for my college. After the holidays, I'm happy to catch up, but I already have Christmas plans. Naturally, it didn't end the way I had hoped. Instead, he became more focused. He started talking about how the family was supporting me, how I was rejecting them, and how I didn't care about them twice. I was just finished by now. It was so absurd. I had been living alone for years. When I left, they barely noticed, and now, all of a sudden, I was leaving the family because I wouldn't be visiting for Christmas. I grew more irate the more I considered it. I wanted to brush it off, to ignore it. They hadn't gotten back to me in months. They hadn't inquired about my well-being or whether I needed anything.